Hi and welcome to this video where I'll be looking at how the basic GIS operations are implemented in ArcGIS Pro. So first of all, I'll just launch ArcGIS Pro and we'll see how this piece of software functions. So this is the follow-up of that video on the conceptual basic GIS function. So this is the start of ArcGIS Pro, and it tells me that there's an update I should install. That's fine. I've used it before, so there are some previously used, recent used projects. I could browse around to find an older project, or I can start out with a new blank project. Up in this corner it says that I am signed into ArcGIS Online. It doesn't have any influences on this video, but in a later video we'll be talking about using ArcGIS Online in our work with ArcGIS Pro. So first of all, I just start out with a blank project. I'll give it a name. Let's call it RUC for Roskilde University Campus, and it will then store it at my default path. I can change this and then store my project somewhere else, but I'll just leave it as a default for this. It will also say that it will create a new folder for this project, and what we'll see is that inside that folder it will also create a basic data store for its data. So it has now created my project, and what we see is that we got this catalog, which is the basic means of navigating data. In here we have a database, and if I double click on that, it has this default database that it has created for the project. We will also see that it has folders, and ArcGIS is a bit strange in this, is that at the moment on a new project the folder is empty. There's no folders. That's because ArcGIS does not look throughout all folders on the computer. We have to assign some specific folders to each project. So if I want to use some of my general existing data, I'll have to right click on this folder and say connect to folder, and then say I have on my S drive data. I'll just leave it as data and connect to that. So what we see now is if I go down into folders, I have a folder called data and a folder called RUC. So this is the project folder, and this is my server folder where I have my general data stores. So if I want to load some existing data, I can go to my data folder, national, Denmark, go down and look at traffic, and I'll load the railroads, which is this one here. Good. If I now right click on it, so I right click on my data layer. So a data layer here is a data source, which is equivalent to these relations in the relational data model. So in this case I'll just click on it and I'll say I'll add it to a new map. I will also add it to a global scene or local scene. These are for 3D visualizations, but I'll be using a 2D visualization, so I say add to map. What now happens is that it creates a map, and in this map we have our railroads. They are displayed in a light blue color. If I want to change that, I can easily do it by just clicking on the symbol here and then choosing that I want to have them as railroads. So I'll have this standard black with hatching on it. Note that this has already made a symbology tab for me here. So I can close it. These tabs this is a setting I have preferred. So I say open things over here in this area here to open something new. So I have the base map, and ArcGIS always starts with a base map. You can change the base map from up here. and there are some different settings you can choose for your base map. So if you prefer to have a OpenStreetMap as your background, you can change, and it will load a OpenStreetMap as your background image. So we can now, I'll just see if I can zoom in on, so basically navigation is up here, and here there's an explanation that, so at the moment I'm just right clicking on 2 fingers in this mouse here, so I'm using my scroll function to zoom in at the university. I will probably, because for the convenience, I would like to have a bit more zoomed in, so I can type my scale down here. So I want to zoom this to 2500. I just type in the number I wanted to zoom, and it will zoom in to that scale. Good. So now I have, this is the campus, and this is where I would like to add some new data. So in order to create a new feature class, or relation as they are called in general terms, I will go into my catalog tool, and I can navigate to my database folder where I have this default database that is created together with the project. So this is ArcGIS's preferred physical storage. It's a file database. So in there I can right click on it, and then I can then say create new feature class. So again, feature class is this terminology for a relation. So I will create this, and I will call it buildings. Buildings, and I choose the geometry to be a polygon. I will choose points, lines, and polygons, and multi-points, but that. And I can choose an additional coordinate system. So we have an X and a Y. I can also choose to have Z coordinates, so I can do 3D modeling, or I could have M, which is measured coordinates, so distances along a network. I don't want any of these, so I turn them off. Go to the next. Here it asks me what they call fields, what we in general call attributes, and if I want to have one saying what is the use of a building, so which department or whatever it is, I can create a attribute called use, and it's a text, and the maximum length is 255. I can change that to, let's say I won't be using more than 50. Doesn't matter for a little demo like this what it is. If it's going to be lots of data, of course, this only takes up a fraction of what 250 characters would take up. So I have a use, and I will have another one called students, that says how many students will be on average in that building at a given time, and that is of course not a text, but it is a number, and I'll choose a short integer because that goes from minus 32,000 to plus 32,000, so that's more than enough. So I have now created these attributes, or as they call them, fields, that I'll be needing. I can also, if I want, I can give a default value. So let's say that I come from the Institute of People and Technology, in Danish abbreviated IMT. So if I want that as my default use, I can choose use here, and down on the default I can write IMT. Oh, didn't really write that, did I? Click IMT. Good. So now it has a default value, and the same goes for student. I could say that in general there's approximately, let's say, 200 students, 200 students in a building. Probably that's too much. Let's say 100. So once I've done this, I can go to the next. It will ask me the coordinate system. It will start out with some peculiar coordinate system, or not peculiar, but it's because that's the coordinate system of the background image. That's not the one I want. I want to use the Danish standard one, which, if I can navigate down here, these are all the different coordinate systems that they support, and basically we can combine them back to geographic coordinate systems, so latitude, longitudes, and projected, so typically in meters. And as I talked about in the video on referencing location, we'll in Denmark we typically use a UTM, so that's the projection, Universal Transversal Locator, and we are in Europe somewhere, and the Earth shape, the datum that we normally use in Denmark is this one that is a European standard, EGIS. So we go down to this European Terrestrial Reference System. And finally, Denmark is, well, it's shared between UTM Zone 32 and 33, but strictly speaking, the university is in UTM Zone 32, but traditional, we do mapping of the whole of Denmark in UTM Zone 32. So I'll choose that one as my coordinate system that I'll be using. And you can see it's up here written in the blue box as the one that I'll be using. So next, and I can say it has a default resolution and it's calculated, so I'll just use that, and it has a precision that I'll just also leave as the default. I never change any of these, and I'm finished. So now it creates this feature class or relation in the database called RUC. So hopefully it will be finished in a moment. Good. So if I now double click in here, we can see that in that one is a building. So in my university here, so I have my databases, and in my databases I have my buildings. One of the really nice things with ArcGIS is that it's very good for working with metadata. So over here we have some metadata. At the moment I haven't typed any, but it's very quick and easy to do. I can go in and I can edit metadata. I could give them some tags. So this is RUC, and it's a demo. It is mapping of mapping of buildings, and the description. I'll say there are two attributes. Use that specifies buildings use. And students. So that is the average number of average number of it. So gives them some descriptions. Of course, it's not so important, this one. I'll delete it in a moment. But in general, it's a really good idea to type in metadata on your files, so you later can remember what it is. This one is a copyright of me. So I've done this, and I can add some additional scale areas and things like that, but I'll just leave it as it is, and I'll simply save information. So it's now saved and I can close it. So the good thing is now if I click on this one, it will show me the tags and all the metadata entered. This is especially relevant when we in another video will work with ArcGIS Online, the portal for placing things on the web. Then it will reuse the information I've typed in here. So I'm ready to go. I have my own data. Just like with the railroads before, I can right click on it, and now I can either put it into a new map or I can add it to the existing map. It's called map, so add to map. So now if I click on my map, nothing really has happened because there's no data there, but over here in this content, which is this layer control, it has added my buildings. So here I got it says I have my great thing that is a building here. In order to edit, I can go up to this new version. This ArcGIS Pro has this ribbon system. So whenever I choose something from the name of the ribbon, so if I choose edit ribbon, it will give me tools relevant to editing. If I choose insert, I can have things for inserting. Analysis gives me different analysis tools. So if I were to do an edit, they would be down here in toolboxes. But I'll go into edit here and I will choose create. So I want to create some data. What has happened now, it has shows me I can create data in the railroads and I can create data in my buildings. I just want to create data in my buildings. So I just click on my building. It will then ask me how do I want to create it, as drawing a polygon, as tracing all lines, drawing over. Most of the RUC buildings, as you can see, are square. So I'll just choose the square tool. And now my little mouse is a very small one, but it's down here at the corner of this building. So I can click once, drag across, and then drag down. So I've created a square. And it has automatically populated its attribute values with my default ones. If I want to look at the attributes or edit them, I can click on this attribute one here, and we can see that it has said the use is IMT and there are 100 students. I don't think that's right. I think this is probably easy. And I don't know, there are probably more students in that building. So I'll enter that. So I've entered the attributes from the default values of something appropriate for that building. And I can simply continue with adding my new ones. It is still in my edit mode, so I don't have to do anything else. I can start editing or creating. Otherwise I can, as you can see, it will start placing a new one there. I can press escape to get out of this thing here, and that I didn't want a building there, so I'll just delete it. And I'll just zoom back to my 2500 scale there. Good. I can create, or I can just click down here on my create, and I can say, okay, I want to do another square building, and I'll take this building up here, drag across, drag down, save, finished, and again I can go in and check the attributes, say what they were. So in this case it is IMT, and it is 100 students. That's fine. If there are things that are a bit more complicated, such as this main building up here, I just go to map and change navigation so I don't accidentally create a new thing, and I'll just zoom a bit in on this building here. So I have this building, you see it's building 01. If I'm going to create this building, I can go again back to my create, and this time I can't use the square, so I'll change to this polygon tool, and it has a bit of a strange form here. I think it will be best to start something like this. And you can see it's giving me some measures as I go along on my constructions of my objects. So, and let's say I'm finished here. So I can right click and say finish. Okay. There's clearly a mistake here. That was lacking something. And it can be difficult to see with this coloring. So what I could do is that I can go back, and what I would normally do in my content is I can again click on my buildings, or I could just click down there and see if there was a some form of hatched pattern that I could use, or transparency. There's a way with some transparency on, so I can see underneath here. What I want to do is I want to change this. This is of course again in the edit mode, but it has this one called modify. So I can go in and choose modify, and there's lots of things I can modify. What I want to do is I want to, these dots where I click, they're called vertices, and what I want to do is I want to modify one of these. So I go up and find vertices, they are there, and basically I could go down and say plus, or I can be a bit, I can right click here and say add vertice, and then I can move my mouse to the vertice, and then I can drag it into place. So I'm finished, and my building has now got that shape I wanted. Another special case is this building 02, which has a hole in the middle. So that's again, there I have to do something special in order to create that one. So what I'll do in that type of cases is that I will go to my create and create a building, and I will do it as I could do as my polygon here, and then I'll start with the hole. So I'll start by constructing this inner square. Once that's constructed, I'll right click and say finish part. That means I'm not quite finished. I've done something of it, but not all of it. So I say finish part, and then I'll draw the outer perimeter. To there. And see what happens is that is where there are two overlapping objects, there will be a hole. So the principle in ArcGIS is that if there is an even number of objects, there's a hole, and if there's an uneven, there's an object. So I'll just click there and say that I'm finished. So now it's created this nice object with a hole in it. I'll just and let's let it stay with this. Now there's one thing I would like. This, when I created this building 01, I also created it as an IMT building, which it is not. So I would like to change the attributes of it. In order to do that, I will choose my selection tool, and I'll click on this one. So now it is selected. When it's selected, I can go in and find to my attributes and say this one is admin, or admin and canteen or whatever, and is probably at any given time there's about 500 students in that building. So now I've changed these data. So now I'm happy with my data. I won't bore you with creating anymore. So I'll just save it. And zoom out to my 2,500 point here. So now I've got my buildings. They're a bit difficult to see. I've now changed how they are displayed. So I'll go to content, and this time I will right click on it and say symbology. Okay. Until now we've been working with all buildings that we have been making had the same symbology. What I can do is that I can change it to unique values. So now I'll go in, and if I go in and change to use, it will say that there are these, I've just made 3 different use types. So there's admin, and there's EASA, and there's IMT. And I'm happy with that. I'll just leave that as is. But there's one really neat thing with ArcGIS, and that is that if I now go to my create features, we can see the same colors here. So if I want to make a new admin building, so I don't remember, the default was that it was a IMT building, but if I choose this one and say create, and I'll just use a square and create this building down here, which is also admin. This building is now automatically created as an admin, and we can see that if we look at the attributes of it. So if I go to attributes, we can see that this building has admin and 100 students. That's probably not that many. There's probably only 20 students in the service desk at any time. So in that way, using my when I was in content and I said gave them categories or colors, but so symbology, and giving each one a unique value based on an attribute. Not only can I see better what I'm doing, but it also makes my editing much quicker. And this also is especially important when we later talk about when we work with the data in ArcGIS Online. So I'm finished making this. I'll just create a new feature class, paths, to show another little important feature. So I'll just go to my database again, right click on it, say new, and do a feature class, so a new relation if you're talking general, and say this is a path. Of course, this case it will be a line geometry, and I don't want set values, and I don't want any attributes, and the coordinate system has automatically chosen the one I chose before, so that's nice, that's the right one. And I can live with the default values here and here, so I'm finished. So it has now created this feature class here. Oops. So what I can do now is that I will go into my, if I look at my content down there, my map, we can see it's not yet been created. In here we can't see it. So what I'd go do is my catalog. I can expand this one. I can right click off my newly created path, and I can say edit to coordinate map. And now it will be available here as a path. I'll change the color of it to something like that, so we can see what we're doing, and like that. So now I'm ready to create some paths. The important thing with this creating paths is go to the create here, is down here. When I start drawing, note this thing called snapping. If I want to make a path that goes from this building and over to this building. Snapping means that, as you can see at the moment, as my mouse goes close to something, this little square, and it says what it is has snapped to. This is controlled by this snapping function up here. If I turn it off, nothing happens when I go close to other objects. And what I normally do is that I don't have this edge. I'll turn that one off and leave this one called vertex snapping. So what happens is I will be needing an edge to start with, by the way. So I'll just turn edge on again. So I want to connect these two with my path. So I'll create a path starting. Oops, I haven't turned snapping on. Sorry. So snapping is now on. So if I go down here and say I'll start at the edge, go a bit out, down, across, down to there, and into the building. Finished. I'll make a new path starting from here, from the building, going across and down, and I'll just let the path go right out to this point here and finish it there. So if I now go back to what I normally work with, having just my vertices on my snapping, I can now create a path, and it goes up here, and it will only snap to the end because that's the only place there's a vertex here. If I wanted to go to a building, the vertices are in the corners. You can see I can't snap into the middle, but I can snap to the corners. So I have a line here, and I might just set it all the way up here and finish it. And the same as before, I can start here, I can go all the way up here, and I go across, and because I have this snapping, it will snap onto that point there, and I can say finish. So snapping is a really useful tool when you are creating your representations. I'm reasonably happy with my map. There's one thing I might want to do more, and is if I want to go into my buildings, maybe I should turn just for safety of, things can go wrong. I'll just save my edits. So now they're all saved. The reason why this one is blue is because it's selected. So I just take clear selecting. Now that's not selected any longer. So I'm reasonably happy with my map. I would like to have some small labels on the buildings. Again here, may often in ArcGIS and in QGIS, you can right click on an object. Oh, sorry, I'm not. I want to be in my content. Sorry. So I can right click on it here, and I can turn on labeling. First of all, I will set the preferences. So what do I want to label? And I want to label the use of it, and I can do different things towards how it's done, but that's fine. And I will then go back to my contents, and I will turn on labeling, and you can now see that it has, oops, I didn't think I got my labeling right there. Labeling class, I just wanted maybe I have to clear this out. It was labeling with the length of them. It could be the square meters. I just wanted to label the use. So now we've got the labeling with the use on it. So we can add labels also to our map relatively simple. Of course, in the later video, I'll be talking much more about these more advanced ways of working with our representations or presentation of our data. Final thing I'll talk about is that I would now like to make a nice layout of this. So I'll go up to my insert. So I'll insert is in this case related to the whole project, and I'll create a new layout which is going to be an A3 in landscape mode. So we'll create a layout, and what we could see is that we in our catalog now have both maps. We have one map, and we also have a layout. In my layout, change the contents. What I can do here is that I can insert, first of all, I'll insert a data frame. You can choose default, which will bring the whole coverage, in this case the whole world, which would be rather strange. So I just use the zoom level that I have in my map, and I'll insert this, and it inserts my my area from before, my nice little map, and I can add additional things. So I could have a north arrow. I can make it a bit bigger, dragging the corners of it. I can move it over to the corner. I can insert a scale bar, and if I just click, I'll get the default one. I will think I want a scale bar. I like this look here, so it will bring me a scale bar. One obvious thing is that this one is in kilometers, which is not really suitable for this scale. So if I right click, it has something called properties, and here I can say that my unit should not be kilometers but meters. So now it has changed to meters. At the moment it's a bit 75, and they're not nice and rounded. I can change this by, instead of having this resize behavior, I can change it to adjust width, and I can say I want my units to be let's say 100 meters. So now I have nice rounded units in meters. Typically we'll also want to insert a text. So click where we want our text, edit the text. So this is Roskilde University. Roskilde University. I can change how it's displayed, so I can go to symbols. It will give me some default values here I can choose from, what they call a gallery, or I prefer to go to properties and appearance and say that I want regular, and I want it to be, let's say 36. And let's have that, something like that. That looks nice, and I can move it down. Final detail I want is I probably want a legend. So I choose a legend. Let's say I want the legend up in the corner, drag an area, and it has now inserted a legend. All of these things can be tweaked and made very much nicer, but as I said, this will be in a later video. This is just the basic of how we work with ArcGIS Pro. Finally, I want to print it or disseminate it, send it to people as a PDF, whatever. So this is all in this share ribbon, and here I can print my layout, or I can export it. So that will be sent to a printer. I'll just say export. It will default to a PDF. That's fine with me. I can store it on my desktop, call it a RUC. It's important to set the DPI, so dots per inch, if it's for printing purposes. So 300, that's a okay print. It's not too good, but it's a low quality print, laser print. 600, 1200 is high quality print. For screen use, 90, 100 DPI is appropriate. I just use it as a 300 dpi for print users. So I say export, and it will then create my PDF document for you. So I'm now finished. I have gone through creating a project, loading some existing data, the railroads. I have added paths and buildings. I have made a layout, and I've now exported. So if I now close this down for a moment, hopefully on my desktop, this PDF here is my RUC PDF that is created. And if I open it, I have also managed to export this data as a PDF that I can email. So hope you like this video on how the basic GIS operations are implemented in ArcGIS. There is also one where I'll do more or less the same in QGIS, so you can watch that. And hope you liked it, and see you in one of my other videos. Bye!